This baby hits 88 miles per hour. You're gonna see some serious shit.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 44 of the Take One podcast. Yes, I know it has been a couple of weeks and it feels like forever. I was just telling Kevin that it feels like I haven't done a podcast in a million years, but it's only been a couple of weeks and a lot has happened in those couple of weeks. And that's kind of what we are here to talk about today. Usually I'm talking about some type of ranking or movie review. But man, we had some fun last weekend, man. It's crazy that it's already been a week. It feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a lot to talk about. But first off, before we dive into that, Kev, what's going on, man? I know I got to see you last weekend. So that was super cool. But what you been up to this week, man?
Well, first of all, last weekend feels like it didn't even happen. It feels like a dream, and we did so much shit. It's going to be
it's not even
crazy
a weekend.
To unpack it.
It's a day.
It was just a day. You're right. It was a day.
I'm over here thinking it's the weekend for as much shit as we did, but it's literally a day.
Before I hopped on, I was like, God, man, was that last weekend? It was, man. It was fun. But I've been good, dude. Just honestly trying to recover from last weekend. And still, I was talking to you about this movie that I just watched. I watched two movies that I really enjoyed, one more so than the other, one that is continuing to grow on me and one that is starting to really lessen for me. I saw Evil Dead Rise and I saw Beau is Afraid, and it's just been a good month for movies, man. And so that's about it. Just chilling, editing some photos. We got, because you and I had a ton of photos and videos we took, and just seeing some movies. So that's been good.
Yeah, man, we have a lot. Man, it took me like a day or so to go through them, honestly, maybe even longer, because I was just kind of not procrastinating it, but man, I was just like, I want to go through these so bad, but I need some time to recover too, because it was a super long day, but fun day. But so Evil Dead Rise. We're recording this on Sunday. You saw the opening night. I'm going tonight to go see it, so super excited about it. For the most part, I'm hearing really good reviews on it. I know it has really good reviews. But one of my good friends actually gave it a very negative review. Natalie gave it a negative review.
I saw that, and I our good friend Marie saw it last night, who's like a huge Evil Dead fan. Yeah. And she also did not like it at all. And I think she's got a review coming out today, maybe, or tomorrow. She had to take a deep dive and release some rage. And so, yeah, it's crazy. A lot of people love it. A lot of people don't love it. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I'm not a huge Evil Dead fan. I think 2013 is my favorite. And after Evil Dead Rise, which I was hoping it was going to be kind of up to par with Evil Dead 2013, it's not. It doesn't pack as much of a punch as 2013, and this is gonna sound weird, but there's a lot of stuff that's happening in that movie, and oddly enough, I was bored while it was happening, but it was still optically cool. It was weird for me. So there's parts that I really did like. But then after it's kind of settled over the last couple of days, I'm like, man, I really don't know if I liked it as much as I thought I did. And so I need to see it again. But I'm curious. I hope you like it, or at least have a good time with it.
I hope so too. I was a fan of the 2013 one, especially on my second watch, and I kind of had a feeling Marie was gonna go into this movie not liking it, even though I hadn't seen it already. It's just I have been in her shoes, and a lot of us have been in her shoes. When we go see, for example, as big as a Scream fan that you and I are, I liked the new one, but as excited as I was for Scream 5, I ended up hating that movie. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I just kind of, because, and we talked about it before, it's just having those expectations of living up to that original or the one in the franchise that we adore. It's hard to do. And I mean, 99% of the time, that's never going to happen. It's never going to be to that level because whatever movie we feel is top tier, it's just we're going to critique it so hard. We're gonna go in saying we're going to try to have a fun time with it. But I've done it plenty of times where I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm critiquing it throughout the movie. So I kind of had a feeling I know she was going into it very scared, very nervous. So I'm interested to see her full review. I hadn't talked to Natalie. I responded to her her 2-star review.
She called it a dumpster fire, man. I love it though. I love it.
And she was like, "What?" I was like, "What is this?" And she responded back, "What the hell was that?" And I was like, "Well, hold on. I haven't seen it yet. I was like, I'll message you Sunday night after I watch it." But so I don't know exactly what she didn't like about it, but another friend of ours, Discount Final Girl, she enjoyed that movie a lot. Yeah. So a lot of people on either side of the fence and yourself in the middle. So I'm super excited to go see it, and I hope I have a lot of fun with it. Because like you, I'm not the biggest Evil Dead fan either.
Yeah, it's got some really creative shit in it. And there's a lot of splatter and gore and body fluids. And there's some brutal stuff and some really nice sequences and shots, but it just I wanted it to go there more with the carnage and the intensity. And there's something that happens at the end. Well, I don't want to get into it too much, but there's something that happens at the end where I thought it was going to be cool, and I still don't really know how I feel about it. So I would like to talk to Natalie and see what she thought about that last third, because it's crazy.
I've avoided, I haven't seen any spoilers at all on this, so I have no idea what's going to happen. I've just heard little bits here and there, and I think it was Discount Final Girl that said the title card reveal was pretty cool. So I'm interested to see that. Interested to see the gore. Obviously, I love the Terrifier 2 movies, so I'm into gore. I'm into that stuff. You kind of scare me a little bit with bodily fluid, because ever since I saw Infinity Pool, when I think of bodily fluids, I think of other stuff. But no, I'm super excited, man, and I can't wait to go see it tonight. But you said you actually saw another movie that has recently come out that's very controversial. What is that?
So Beau is Afraid is Ari Aster's third feature, and it's starring Joaquin Phoenix, who I'm a huge fan of, even more of a fan of now with he's so good in this, so fearless and endearing, and relatable. Man, I don't think this movie's gonna work for a lot of people, but I think Ari Aster is a tremendous talent, a once in a generation talent. And I think this is a movie we'll never see again. It's a hard watch. It's trippy, it's heavy, it's out there, it's hard to comprehend. But it's, man, his movies always have really heavy elements of grief and fate. And I've never experienced that from any other filmmakers. So I think he's my favorite filmmaker working today. And so I was really conflicted with the movie. Part of me loved it, part of me hated it. Part of me, I put in my review, I was part of me was laughing out loud. There's some funny shit in it. Some of the funniest stuff I've seen in years. Part of me was tearing up and crying. And then part of me was falling asleep. Part of me felt like I ate an entire bottle of edibles and was feeling the pressure of the earth. And so it is crazy. There's so much happening, and there's imagery that I'll never be able to unsee. But it's a movie that I've never seen before, and I'll never see again. And I respect it so much. And it's one of those movies where I was just doing deep dives on what does this mean? What does that mean? And so I think it will mean differently for for everybody. And I think that's the beauty in his movies is he just has these themes and these innuendos and metaphors that are just like so hard to wrangle. And I think that's why he's just so talented. And so I'm still recovering from that movie. Like I remember when the lights came up and the ending credits started to happen. I couldn't move. Nobody in the theater talked. Nobody moved. We all sat there until like the last word came up on the credits. That's never happened to me.
Man.
I was just like, man, it's a crazy odyssey, dude. It's a fucking weird movie. But I liked it.
I have to go see it now. Whether I end up liking it or not, it's just man, this sounds like a very controversial movie and crazy movie and
crazy, dude.
In whatever way. I don't even know what it's about, to be honest with you. So
Me
I don't
neither.
know.
I mean, I do.
Yeah,
I do now, but it's like it's all over the place. But I encourage people to go see it.
Man, I can't wait to go see it because I'm definitely gonna have to add that to the list. Have you had so have you been watching anything new recently outside of that or revisiting any movies? I think for me, man, I've just been crazy busy. I haven't had a chance to really dive really into anything. I rewatched Scream the other night.
Yeah.
Just threw that on when I was hanging out with a friend. And yeah, man, really outside of that, I haven't had too much time to kind of just sit back and relax and watch anything.
I watched Insidious again with the new one coming out, which I don't have high hopes for. I didn't think the trailer was that good, but I hope it's good.
Yeah.
Fan of Patrick Wilson, and I think this is his directing debut, so I hope it's good. And then I watched Midsommar again last night, which I don't love. Did you see Midsommar?
So it's funny you bring that up. I watched that a couple months ago for the very first time. Somebody brought it up to me, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch that." It's it's a very interesting, weird movie.
Yeah.
That I feel like I have to go back and look at my review. I think I gave it 3 stars though, or 2.5 stars. I think I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Like, I don't know. It's a very weird movie to I wouldn't say comprehend, but like
it is
ingest. Well, yeah, ingest, comprehend. It's just a weird movie to do that for. But how did you feel about it?
So this is my third time seeing it, and Hereditary is my favorite out of his 3 movies, and I think Beau is Afraid
easily.
That's a 5-star movie to me. I think Beau is Afraid is now second. I think Midsommar was second for a little bit, but after rewatching it, I was just like, man, a lot of that movie works for me until it really doesn't, and I think it's a beautiful film, but I watched it because it was Earth Day yesterday. I was like, "It's a good Earth Day movie. Let's keep going with the Astor stuff." And so, pop that on. Yeah, I think Florence Pugh is the best part about that movie, and there's a lot about it I do enjoy, but there's other stuff that just like really starts to annoy me with like everyone like being in harmony and harmonizing and all the sounds and the stuff towards the end, it loses me. And so it's not one that I always want to watch every year.
Yeah. It's a movie that loses me towards the end itself. I think the beginning, it's a very strong beginning.
Yeah.
Even the middle part's not too bad, but definitely that final act, I think is where I kind of tap out.
Agreed. What's up, Carson? And then I don't know if you've seen or heard about this new movie from Spider One called Bury the Bride. It's Scott Taylor Compton's new movie.
No,
it's a to-be release. And big Scott Taylor Compton fan. I mean, Laurie Strode, Rob Zombie, like I'll always love her. And so I'm not gonna shit on this movie too bad, but I watched that Friday. I think I watched it Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Woof, man, it is bad.
I saw your review. I saw your review on it.
It is, yeah, it's bad. It made me. I was like cringing and embarrassed watching it. Just felt. I said in my review, Scout, I will always love you, and so due to my love for her, I'm not gonna rip this apart too bad. So I left it with like a couple of quotes from the movie. It's bad.
That's fair. I mean, is it a horror movie or no?
Yeah, it's a horror movie, low budget. It's actually directed by Rob Zombie's little brother, who's the lead singer for Power Man 5000, which I didn't know. It's just very like a middle schooler wrote it and directed it. It's just like just lame. The cast is pretty okay. There's a twist in it, and I just thought the dialogue was like really hard to put up with, and the acting wasn't great. The directing was not good, and so, um, yeah, I didn't like it a whole lot.
Well, what's crazy about, and I just asked if it was a horror movie because even when, and I've told you this, I've grown to really love the original Rob Zombie Halloween. But even when I was not a big fan of those movies, of those two films, I've always said that Scout's performance in those movies were top tier, like some of the best performances I've ever seen. So
Yeah.
I'm just, I don't know. I would love to see Scout in a lot more, especially a higher budget horror film. I think that would be good for her because we've seen it. She has the range. She can do
Yeah.
what she can do it. I mean, there's no question about that. It's just, sometimes these low budget films, man, it's hard to, you got to really make an impact in these low budget films or it's just not gonna work.
Yeah, she's the main character in it. Um, and like you said it perfect. She's definitely got the range. She's got the chops. I just think the script's not very good, and the directing's not very good. So I think she was hindered with that. And so, yeah, if you check it out, maybe you'll like it. There is some interesting things in it, but the execution was just not there for me.
All right, man. I can't hold off any longer. Like I gotta dive into last weekend, man. So we have been talking for
Yeah,
a
man.
while about linking up, going to filming locations, conventions, and schedules, timing just hadn't worked out, and um, but last weekend it did, and we went
Yeah.
to the Monster Mania convention in Maryland. You came up that night, stayed. We got up super early.
Oh
I
my
know
God, man.
Kevin didn't get any sleep that night.
None. Okay, so my schedule's so fucked up right now. I'm a night owl, and I'm the type of person that if I tell myself, look, dude, you got to go to sleep like within the next hour, or you are screwed. You're gonna be dead tired and groggy and feeling terrible tomorrow. Go to bed. Can't do it. I've never been able to do it. I can't do it, and so got to Mike's at like 8:30. We ate some pizza. Talked about life. Talked about movies. And it was getting close to midnight. We're like, yeah, we should probably call it, man. We got to get up in like 4 hours. And so, dude, I freaking lay there with my eyes shut for 4 hours, and I could not sleep. And alarm went off at 3:55, and I'm just like, well, this is gonna be a day. But it was, and made some good memories, man. And it's gonna be fun to talk about.
Well, the crazy thing about that is you didn't get really any sleep. I think you said what,
Not
40, 45 minutes at the most.
I don't think I got that even. I think maybe 10 minutes. Like, I'm not
Dude,
exaggerating. I did not sleep.
and it blows my mind because we did not have a short day. Like we didn't get back to my house until like 10 o'clock that night, 10:30 that night, and then you drove back home to Charlotte. So Kevin was up super late. I mean, probably a couple hours away from, probably like 3 or 4 hours away from 24 hours, man.
Oh no, I think it was over that. So like, yeah. So the drive to Mike's house was 3.5 hours, and then the drive from your house, which Mike drove from Mike's house to the convention, was 3 hours, right? And so we got to the convention. We got there at like right at 8 o'clock. It's perfect timing,
We did good. That
dude.
was a
We
good day.
we couldn't play. We couldn't have like executed
Yeah.
our plan any better, dude.
Yeah.
It was
Everything
fun.
everything worked out for us. So obviously we went up there. Our main goal was to meet David Arquette, who plays Dewey in the Scream franchise, and can't wait to tell that story. But obviously one of the main people there, maybe outside of William Shatner and Christina Ricci. I would say those are the top three that were at the convention. So we wanted to get up there with a perfect amount of time. 1, to grab our wristbands, and 2, to stand in line. It started at 10. And again, like you said, Kevin, we planned it out till we were like, what, 8th or 9th in line?
Oh, it was beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Because I was like, should we leave earlier? You think we'll be good? You're like, yeah, I think we'll be good. Got there right at 8. Got line, got our pre-entry wristbands, which took maybe 10 minutes. And then David Arquette's room was outside the hotel at like a separate entrance. And so found that out pretty quickly. Also, shout out to Jasmine,
Absolutely.
our friend Jasmine, who worked the convention. She's also been in Scream 5 as an extra. Shout out Jasmine. Thank you so much for helping us. She was a huge help with like figuring out the lay of the land of the hotel and what to do. And so she kind of gave us a heads up that David was going to be in a different section. So we did that. We got there, and we were like one of the first 10 people in line. It was perfect.
Yeah, and I could just, like, we were sitting there, we were talking to a few people, and I just look over, you can tell Kevin's starting to feel it. Like, already. Kevin's starting to feel it. It's starting to, I could just see it in his eyes. Eyes are getting heavy.
Wait, feeling like my exhaustion or feeling like my nervousness to meet Dewey? Or both? Yeah.
Both.
Well, we were in the so we were inside the hotel next to his door, and it was like 95 degrees in there. It was hot.
It was
oddly hot, and we were in there for maybe 30-45 minutes, and then security was like, y'all can't be blocking the hallway, which we weren't. It was a single file line, so they moved us outside, which was nice because it felt cooler out there, but also we had to stand, and I was hurting. I was like, Mike, I'm starting to feel it, man.
So like Kevin said, the inside sucked because it was like 150 degrees.
Brutal.
But we could sit down and lean up against the wall if we wanted to. But being outside, it had rained that morning, so the ground was kind of wet. Plus, you're sitting down on concrete instead of carpet, so it's just very uncomfortable. But then the positive of being outside, it was a lot cooler. Like, it felt amazing outside. But yeah, man, I remember you were like, man, I'm kind of nervous, man. I'm kind of nervous. And I was like, I remember telling you specifically, I was like, as soon as you said it, I was like, I'm not that nervous. I don't get nervous for meeting men, like for famous men. Like I just don't.
You have made that clear multiple times. You're like, yeah, I really don't get nervous meeting males or like, male actors, male celebrities. Usually it's just the women. And I can't wait to talk about when we finally met David. But yeah, we were outside for a while, and there was some interesting people out there that kept giving us looks and making eye contact with us. It was weird.
It was very weird. I like, respect your husband, please.
That lady, man, they were a sweet couple, but the guy was interesting, and the lady was even more interesting.
Man, I just felt like I was being stared at every minute, and every time I looked up, I made eye contact with the woman, and I felt so uncomfortable. I was like, man. And then when you said the same thing happened to you, I was like, maybe she was just.
It reminded me. It's fucked up, but it reminded me of Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise whenever he just like does that dead stare, because I would like kind of just be like looking around like, man, I hope the time goes by quick. Wonder what time it is, and then boom, we'd lock eyes, and she's just staring at me. I'm like, whoa, it's crazy.
It was crazy. Cosplay at the convention was really good. There was Michael Myers. I want to say from Ends. You might know a little bit better than me.
It was
just based off of the mask. Yeah, it looked I think that was the best one there because I thought that mask looked amazing. Like his cosplay was really good, and then the Scream cosplay was really good. I didn't really see too much more after that. I'm not sure if because we split up after we met Dewey. I'm not sure if you saw anything else.
Not really, man, because with like the combination of me being like loopy, out of it from being exhausted, and then my adrenaline pumping from meeting Dewey and then the Lost Boys and a few other people. And also like it being so hot in that hotel, like it felt like a weird fever dream of an experience, dude.
It did.
Yeah.
We're gonna save Dewey for last. So first off, talk about, I know you met several other people. You met 3 more people than I did. You met
4.
4 more. You met 2 Lost Boys.
Yep. So I met
Who'd you meet?
the actor that plays Michael, Jason Patrick, and he was really chill and cool. That was awesome. And then I met the Lost Boy, the vampire that plays Dwayne. He's the one that gets killed by death by stereo. And when I walked up to him, I was like, "Man, it's so nice to meet you. Would you mind writing a quote?" He's like, "Absolutely. I can do a quote. I can also do death by stereo, which I know it's not my quote, but it's how I die, so it's mine." I'm like, "You're the man. I would love that." So we did a quote, character name, autograph, and he wrote death by stereo. And so he was awesome. And then I met the sheriff from Scream, Joseph Whipp, who plays Sheriff Burke.
Yep.
And man, this was a cool memory. So went up to his table, and honestly, ironically, I waited the longest to meet him. Well, besides David, but it took a long time to meet the sheriff. Get up to him, and his wife's there, and the wife's wearing like a Wes Craven tribute T-shirt. And so I get up to him. I'm like, "It's so nice to meet you." And I was like, "I really like your shirt." And they were both really sweet and just said thank you and talked about Wes and where they got that shirt and when. And I was just like, every time somebody that worked with Wes or an actor from the Scream franchise talks about him, you can just tell how special he really was. And they were just like, he really was. And so that was a nice moment. And then I was like, "All right, so if you don't mind writing a quote." He's like, "Absolutely." He's like, "What quote would you like?" I'm like, "Thanks, Hank. We're on top of it." That's my favorite quote from him in the movie. And he took a couple seconds. He took a couple seconds, and then before he wrote it, and he looks up and he goes, "Thanks, Hank. We're on top of it." I was like, "My guy, man, that was so memorable."
That is awesome to get for him to say that, dude. That is, and like throughout the day, me and Kevin would just be like out of nowhere, "Thanks, Hank, we're on top of it."
It took
literally
him
out of nowhere.
It took him like a second and a half to remember, but once he did, he just like shouted it out, and it was awesome. And then I met David Naughton, who plays David Kessler in American Werewolf in London, one of my favorite movies of all time, and he was great as well. So like, I'm always hesitant with going to conventions because you just never know, man. Because an actor can be rude, and it's tough because that can kind of taint your love for that character in that movie. And so you always want to like have a nice moment with them, say a couple not crazy things, thank them, and then get your autograph. And so I was just grateful everyone was cool.
Yeah, we agree on that. Because one, you just hear stories of multiple occasions where an actor or actress they're just rude. They're not the nicest people, and it sucks because you can hear many stories like that, or just 1 or 2 stories, and in your mind you're like thinking, were they rude to me just because they were having a shitty day? Like, what's going on in their personal life? Are they always like this? So that one moment for you personally can like definitely taint something that could be true or could not be true. So
and it's happened to me before too.
Yeah. And it's good that me and you both had great experiences. I was able to meet David Howard Thornton in person, which was really cool. He was super nice. I emailed him before we went up there, told him I was coming up there because I had him on the podcast, and he was like, "Can't wait to meet you in person." So he was super nice. Signed a picture for me, and then Lauren LaVera.
Yeah, your girl. Yeah. Anytime for people listening, anytime on the way up to Maryland or we were standing in line to meet David, I would just go, "Lauren LaVera." Mike's like, "Oh God, I'm gonna throw up."
I was more nervous for her than anybody, and I think I did the best around her, and that's more of a credit to her. So, man, when I walked in and I saw her, literally just the perfect human being ever. Like, Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I got in line, and I'm just sitting there, and it was an interesting room to be in. There were a lot of cosplays for Art the Clown, and somebody was in there playing Clown Cafe on repeat. So I heard that
Oh,
song
nice.
89,000 times, and I'm just by the 89th time, I'm just sitting there singing the entire song.
Mm-hmm.
Now you just look around and you hear everybody. You look at everybody; they're mumbling the song too. So it was cool. I was standing in line, got up to her. And she was super nice. She was like, "Hey, how you doing? What's your name?" And I told her my name was Mike, and she was like, "I love your hoodie." I had an Eagles hoodie on, and she's from Philadelphia, so we kind of talked about that. And she asked, "Did I drive down from Philly?" I told her, "No, I live in Virginia." And she asked how I became a fan of the Eagles, and we kind of just talked about that. And I told her that, and she was like, "Thank you." She was like, "Thank you for coming down here, driving up here from Virginia. I know it wasn't a short drive to spend time with us." And I was like, "For one of my favorite final girls, absolutely."
Oh,
And
smooth.
and once I said that, I
Smooth.
was like, "Oh, I'm in my bag now." Like,
Look at you, man.
oh yeah,
That's
but
nice. That's cool.
but again, I was nervous to meet her, but that's just credit to her. Like anytime you can meet somebody and one, they conversate with you, because some people don't. Sometimes they just sign and send you on your way. But she was super nice with everybody, and I think one of the things that stand out for me that I kind of got annoyed about, but she was super nice as far as pictures. There's one guy that took at least 97 selfies, like
Ooh.
holding something. And I'm like, in my mind, I was just like, damn, I hope she's not charging per selfie, because that would be kind of crazy. But she was super nice, and that was a really good experience. So those were the only two I met outside of David Arquette. Oh, what a scene behind you! What a scene! But yeah, great experiences that I'll definitely cherish. And yeah, man, I think what kind of shocked us both was, I don't want to necessarily say super shocked, but how big David Howard Thornton's line is. It's just
It was
crazy.
huge.
Yeah.
I went to Days of the Dead in Atlanta, and he was there. And Lauren LaVera wasn't there, but I think everybody else from the Terrifier crew was there, like everybody. And it was crowded, but it wasn't like out the door, out the next room, out the building like David Howard Thornton's line was. That was crazy. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be honest, I'll say it right now. I cut line. Not on purpose though. I didn't know there was a line outside of the door, because the only line outside of the door where you had to stage yourself was for David Howard Thornton. So if you're meeting anybody else, Lauren LaVera, Damian Leone, and whoever else was in that room, you could just
It
go
was
in there.
Elliot and
Elliot.
the little pale girl,
Yep.
and then
And
the
the
original
original. Yeah.
Art the Clown. Yeah.
Yeah, you could just walk in there and get in their line. So I walked in, and once I was done meeting Lauren, I just went over to David's line, and I just thought the line started where the floor line started. So I just got in line, and 3 or 4 other people got behind me, and like 3 minutes later, somebody came in and was like, "Hey, the line starts outside," and grabbed 3 people. I was literally the last one he stopped at. I didn't even make eye contact with him. And luckily he didn't grab me, so I was able to
It's perfect.
kind of go through that. And after that, I kind of met up with you, and we both kind of rolled through our lines. I think the good thing about
Yeah.
that is we left the convention at 12, and we were able to do really cool stuff after that we'll talk about. But time to dive into David Arquette.
Yeah, man. Oh God. This is a moment I'll never forget. Mike certainly will never forget. Yeah, so they had us outside, and like the line by the time it got to us to go inside to meet him was like wrapped around the building. And so we got there perfect time, and I think we had to wait about 2 hours to meet him. And so the way they did it, we would get brought in by like 2 by 2 or by groups of who was together or whatever. And so it got to us, and Mike and I are standing like side by side, like waiting. And at this, like, I'm even nervous, like talking about it, just like
Yeah.
remembering it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, fuck, man, this is Dewey. And like, Dewey's my favorite character, I think, maybe of all time. I just love that guy. I love Scream, and I love what he brought to that franchise. And so I don't know if I was more nervous to meet him than Nev, but they were like toe to toe with how nervous I was. And so I was like, Mike, man, we're about to meet Dewey. This is crazy. And so they open the door, and it's almost like in slow motion. And Mike's like, "You're going first, right?" And I'm like, "Am I?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll go first." And so I knew what I wanted David to write. I knew what I was going to say to him. I was going to have a specific quote. Mike knew what he was going to say to David. And Mike had a specific quote. It was different than mine, and we kind of talked about that on the way up there. And I just remember going in the room, and
very small room,
but at least there was like a couple fans, and it was like
definitely
breathable in there. So I go in there and I see him. He's got like this crazy suit that looks like a combination of like Fresh Prince from Bel-Air and like his ice cream from the first Scream.
I love that.
I loved it. And I was like, God, there's Dewey. And they had like 2 really long tables with like so many awesome posters and photos. I've never seen that many. Never seen that many for anybody.
Never.
And you let me know when you want to take over with this story. And so we get in there, and we're standing there, and we're probably like 10 to 12 people back waiting. And I just remember the table they had him sitting at was like a crappy wooden table, like a church, like a church table, and they had like these plastic tablecloths on the top of it, and then on the side kind of like curtains or drapes. And it kept falling off, and they were trying to fix it, and they couldn't fix it. And David's like, "Oh," and he was trying to fix it, and then he lifted up the tablecloth. He's like, "Oh, these tables are the worst," and it was funny. And me and Mike were just like laughing. At that point, I was like, "He's the fucking coolest, man. He's so fucking cool." Like anything he said, I was just like, "That's the man right there. Love that guy." And so.
I'll let you talk about your experience meeting him, and then I'll take over.
So we get up there, and Mike and I both had the same poster, these big ass 27x40 Scream posters, and walk up to him, unravel it. I'm like, "It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. You're my favorite character in this entire franchise, and really ever." I was like, "Would you mind writing a quote?" He's like, "Oh, yeah. Well, thank you." He's like, and he was trying to think of a quote on his own. And he's like, "You're not scared, are you?" I was like, that's a great quote. You got a lot of great quotes in that movie, but let's do
great quote.
Let's do "When I wear this badge, you treat me like a man of the law." He's like, "Oh, okay." And then he started to write the beginning of that quote in the movie where he goes, "What did mom tell you?" I was like, "Oh, and you can just write when I wear this badge. That's all good." And then he signed it, and we got a picture. And like even just meeting him for 60 seconds, like I could see why Courtney Cox fell in love with this guy. Like I don't know if you felt that way, but I just was like, this dude, like he's everything you thought he would be. He's like so cool and goofy and just easily like likable. Like he just has that likability about him. And and then we got our picture, shook his hand and said, "Pleasure to meet you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here." And so the way Mike and I had this worked out, because we didn't want our posters to get all messed up or the autograph smeared, we were like, I'll take your picture, you take my picture. And they had a couple of convention helpers in there. So I asked this one guy, thank God, I asked this one guy if he could hold my poster while I took your picture. He's like, "Absolutely." So I gave him my poster, and then I'll let you take over with the rest of the story.
So I just want to preface this by real quick going through. Dewey would be my second Scream cast member that I've met. I met Nev Campbell in that same hotel the year 2020 or 2019, right before COVID happened. And I remember going up to Nev. I was super nervous, obviously. I mean, she is just the fucking best, the best final girl ever. And I got nervous, and she asked me what she wanted to write, and I stalled. I said, I don't know. And she was like, "Well, what about what's your favorite scary movie?" And I was like, yeah, that's absolutely perfect. And again, I wasn't prepared for that one.
Yeah.
So, which was fine, and we did that, and we took a picture. She touched me. It's not a big deal.
She touched my leg.
Okay, kill him.
Okay, kill him.
So that was my story with Nev. So Dewey's my second. So reminder, I told Kevin at least 3 or 4 times, man, I don't get nervous for males, man. It's just I'm super nervous to meet Lauren. Like I will be when I got up to meet Dewey and Kevin was in front of me. I started to sweat a little bit. I'm like, oh my God, it's fucking Dewey. It's David Arquette right there. I'm about to meet him. And Kevin steps away. I hand him my phone in a very awkward position. Like, it was a very awkward exchange. And I didn't even talk to you about that because I was so embarrassed. I was like, I'm not bringing that up.
I remember that.
Yeah, good. So I lay out the poster in front of David and I was like, I'll just, kind of what you did, David. You're awesome. Been a big fan of yours. You're one of my favorites ever. And he was like, absolutely. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And just super down to earth guy. And he was like, what do you want me to write? And I stalled. I was like,
man, you stalled hard, man.
I did. I was like, oh, hang on. And I reached back to grab my phone because I screenshot what I wanted him to write, and I didn't have my phone. I handed it off to Kevin. So I was like, Kevin,
it was like a good 10 seconds of silence in a room full of people and Dewey.
And I just felt everybody staring at me from behind, and I'm sitting here just, I don't know what to say. Like I'm stalled right now, and he's just looking down, waiting to write something, and I'm like, oh fuck. So I reached for my phone, didn't have it, and I was like, Kevin, what was it again?
And the whole room erupted with laughter. David laughed. Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah, the whole room started laughing. David got a real good chuckle out of it, and again, 0 for 2 for the Screamcast for me, but I failed miserably on that one. But it was a good moment and one that I'll remember forever. I got David Arquette to laugh, so I'll take that any time of the day. Man. And I got a picture with them, and he was like, "Do you two want a picture together?" And I was like, "Absolutely." Yeah. And we got that, and we kind of hung out and dried our posters. But yeah, that was my experience meeting David Arquette. Super nervous when I got up there, stumbled, but great experience that I won't ever forget.
It couldn't have been more perfect, man. I know it was embarrassing, but like in the best way. I'll never forget having your phone, standing behind you, get ready to take your picture, waiting for you to get your autograph, and the image of you like reaching for your phone and the sound of it, and you realizing like your safety net is gone and you're in no man's land, and you just going, Kev, what was it? And I was like, I told you what the quote was, and everyone just busted laughing. I'll never forget David's like big smile, and so I'm sure that he appreciated that. And we talked about it the whole trip, the whole day. We were just like, Kev, what was it? Yeah, man, so funny.
That's going to be a quote that goes down in history. Kev, what was it? Oh, man, what an experience. What an experience that I don't think either of us will ever forget, being able to meet David. And I think one of the cool things about that is immediately and I already knew this about him, but immediately when I got into the room, I could see the charisma, I could see the passion, the love that he had for the fans, and just how nice he was. Anybody that was in a group together, he didn't charge for an extra picture. He always asked people, hey, do you want to take a picture together as a group? Just a very super nice guy. I didn't want to leave the room. I would say
I didn't either, man.
He's probably one of him, Lauren, and Nev are probably the top 3 for nicest people I've met. So
yeah, he's the heart of that franchise, and you could just like feel that, and so it's always crazy meeting these characters, these celebrities, because you almost kind of black out. You're like, okay, I'm gonna say this. I don't want to fuck this up or do anything too crazy. Just get in there and get out. And then you look back on it, you're like, man, like, how did I even say anything? What did I even say? And so he was very pleasant just to meet. And so shout out to him for being a good dude.
Yeah, that was awesome, and again, couldn't have gone any better. After that, we separated, and Kev went and met his people. I went and met mine, and then we kind of got back together.
Yeah.
And then we kind of walked the vendor room. Didn't really see too much. I bought something for my niece, and then just what was it, 12:30 at the latest.
Yep, left and got some Chick-fil-A.
We did, and then got back on the road. And our plan, if everything ran perfectly, was we wanted to go and visit the Exorcist steps.
Oh man!
And the Exorcist filming locations in Georgetown, basically DC, which was about an hour and 15 minutes away. I think with traffic it was an hour and 30, but it was kind of on the way back home. And it was just, we had so much time left in our day that, it's something we were like, man, if we could roll through this and everything works out, man, that would be great to go do. And for a Saturday at a convention,
busiest day of the convention too.
Busiest day, again, like Kev said, we just kind of planned everything out perfectly as far as leaving. We didn't hit any traffic really at all on the way up there, so everything really just worked out perfectly in our favor. And we didn't rush through the convention at all. We got to see everything and everybody we wanted to. So I think that was our biggest thing, is we don't, as bad as we want to go visit the Exorcist steps, we want to make sure that we take in this convention. And we did, and we were able to leave out at a great time. And yeah, the Exorcist steps, the Exorcist filming location. So that's interesting in itself. I think one of the things that I wanted to always do with Kevin was go to a filming location. And we had talked about going to the Exorcist steps for a long time now. And it just didn't work out. But man, again, we go back to this Saturday that ended up being the perfect day. And we were able to hit the steps, man. And I think we need to talk about that. I'll kind of hand it over to you, because that was an experience in itself. I feel like every single one of them we had a great experience with. And kind of, I don't want to say bad experience, but we got hit with some,
I would say, memorable experience.
So, Exorcist steps, man. Would you kind of, how'd you feel being there and kind of being, what'd you take away from it?
I just remember getting into Georgetown, and it was just a really pretty area. I don't think I've ever been in that part of DC. I've only been to DC like a couple of times. But I haven't been in that part. And so we parked on the street kind of parallel to it, and it was blocked by this big building, so we couldn't see Reagan's house. We had to kind of walk around the block. And it was just cool, man. That's, in my opinion, that's the scariest movie ever made, and probably will be the scariest movie that's ever made. And so it was just surreal, man. It was surreal seeing it and like staring face to face with it. And it's still, man, to me, it still felt like it had that coldness that you could feel in the movie in
Definitely.
the 70s. Like even like seeing the curtains inside and just like the ambiance inside, I was like, man, it still has that weight to it. And so many people are just like exercising in front of it, and there's like a Transformers house next to it, like the movie Transformers.
It's
I don't
a
know if they
busy
filmed
area.
that there. It's very busy, very heavily trafficked. So we got some pictures there, and what did we do? We went to go to the steps because it's right next to it. And if you don't know, in the movie, if you look at our pictures, you notice that the part of the house that Reagan's room is in was just built for the movie. Like the extended wing of the house was just made for production, so they could have the steps and Reagan's room be side by side with each other. And so took some pictures of the front of the house, and then we got to the steps. And just a heads up, if you're going to go check out these steps, be prepared to like wait for your moment and wait a while, because there's just so many people exercising on them, or just like fans, tourists, from all over the world. Like I heard so many different languages, and it was crazy. And so
I don't think we were expecting that. I can tell you, I was not expecting that. I would say the busiest filming locations I ever been to was probably Hawkins Lab or Hawkins Middle School, I think was the busiest. And that was kind of one of my first times ever going to a location. So it was weird seeing other people there doing the same stuff that I was. I didn't expect that. But I've been to many locations since then, and I kind of had that area always kind of really all to myself. And you know, and even some Stranger Things locations I had to myself. But these Exorcist steps, man, let's be honest, at least 50 times, no lie, at least 50 times I heard like 50 times, are these the steps, are these the steps, oh, the steps are right there, the steps are right there. Like, to Kevin's point, people all around the world came over to visit these steps. And shout out to one guy, I know we were like,
the dude that was like making laps on him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know we were kind of like upset with people just because we wanted our shots, and you know, some people just weren't being the most respectful. But in that, I was just like, while we were waiting, I was like, this guy just kept running laps up and down these steps, and I'm telling you, I only walked up the steps once and I was done. Like, my calves were shredded, and this guy came up them at least three times running, and I'm like, man. So shout out to that guy for having the leg strength, but my God.
Yeah, those steps are no joke. Like, you walk up to them and you're waiting to see like the decline of the steps, and the closer you get, you're like, where the fuck are these steps? Because they're so steep, like crazy steep, and like the steps aren't that wide either, and so they're narrow. They're not very wide, and they're super steep. And it is a feeling when you walk up on them, and so
it is.
It was eerie because like it's very kind of damp and dark all the way to the bottom
and enclosed kind of. So
and so that was cool to take that in. And so we started taking some pictures, and you know, like we said before, a lot of people exercising kind of not really having the best etiquette or being respectful, and so just having to wait for a while. And then we noticed like a storm started to come in. And it was getting kind of dark. And when we first got there, it was super sunny, bright, pretty. And within a matter of, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, it was getting dark really, really quick. And I think we checked the weather. We were like, it's only 40% chance of rain or storms for the whole day. We should be good. And so it started to rain on us a little bit. And I'm like, fuck it. I just gotta go for it. So I got about a third of the way down the steps because it was finally clear. And about a third of the way down, here comes more people coming up. I'm like, So I just keep going down, and then you come down. We got some pictures. And then I would say in a matter of like 5 to 7 minutes, we got hit, man. We got hit by like the nastiest storm, and we didn't have anywhere to go because we parked a good ways back up and around the corner, and we didn't really want to run all the way back up and then out in the rain. And so we were underneath this little awning at the bottom of the steps. If you watch the movie, you can probably see it. We were just like underneath this awning for like, it seemed like an hour at least. It was a while.
It was. And like the rain was just absolutely coming down. If it wasn't for that small little awning we were under, we would have been soaked. I had no change of clothes. I don't think Kevin did either. So like we would have been done for. And it lasted about 25, 30 minutes at most. It felt like a lifetime.
Up. So there would be 20 minutes of just like hard rain and lightning, and then it would kind of start to let up. And I was just like, oh, thank you, God. And as soon as I said anything,
he said it out loud.
It started to rain harder.
I was like, as soon as it did that, I was like, I looked over at the steps and I'm like, I don't like this. Like,
it felt like we weren't supposed to be there, right? It felt weird. It felt crazy.
Because I'm no lie, I recorded us under that awning, and you know how heavy the rain is. So I'll share that on the Take One podcast page. But it's just so eerie because no lie, 3 seconds after Kevin said that, it started to rain harder. Like the rain just picked up because it started to get really, really light, and Kevin was just like, oh, thank God. And then as soon as he said that, just like
it was mocking me. Yeah,
it was
very apropos for like just the energy and for that movie. It was creepy. And so it finally started to let up, and there were a lot of people. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the only thing I wanted to say was I'm kind of glad it rained, even though it kind of put a damper on our time, even though we did great on time. But
me too.
I'm glad it rained because it made the steps in that area just even more eerie. Like I know one shot that I
Yeah.
took up the steps was after it rained, and you could see them being really wet, and with the cloud coverage, it made it a lot darker too. So
Yep.
it worked out great as far as shots wise.
Absolutely. It made it very dreary, especially like when we went back up at the end to get some more shots of the front of the house. Like it was cloudy, it was perfect. But I remember when the rain finally let up, there was a bunch of people that started to pull into that little parking lot where we were at. And anytime you and I would start to walk up to the steps, they would just kind of like almost, it just seemed like they teleported to get right in front of us.
Yeah,
And they were like, "Oh, he's got the movie," because I brought my VHS tape. And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Would you guys like to take a picture with it?" And so
which is
that was
very
cool.
nice of you. Yeah, that is awesome.
That was cool to kind of share um,
They loved it. They ate it up.
that moment. Yeah, share that moment with some people.
Yeah, I mean, when whoever saw us with the VHS tape, everybody just thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Kevin left his VHS tape up at the top of the steps, so actually, while it was
Oh,
pouring down, raining, he had to go back up the steps. I have him going back up the steps. I'm not going to share that,
I was
but
hustling,
yeah,
man.
he was, and it got a little wet, but it looks like it's
Yeah,
okay, man.
It's this one. It's good. It was underneath, so there's a bunch of trees next to Reagan's house, and so luckily that was kind of like blocking it from getting super soaked. But God, man, going up those steps, I was doing good till I got about 3/4 of the way. Then once you start to go up that last set of steps, man, like I was feeling it. Lactic acid
Yeah,
was building up.
it
My hamstrings, man, my hamstrings were locking up, and then I had to come back down. And by that point, I mean, I don't work out my legs very much. I'm not a leg day guy, and so my legs were like, What are you doing?" And so when I started to go back down, I felt like I was like a pirate with peg legs. Like I
yeah.
couldn't bend my legs, and so I was like, "Am I gonna fall down these fucking steps, man?"
Well,
But
what's crazy about that is you're down. I think for me personally, I think it's worse being down and looking up. But I just remember watching Kevin go up, and I was like, man, that does not look fun. But I remember when I went up, I was more than halfway up. And I'm like, this is not bad as I thought it was at all.
right,
Literally, to Kevin's point, that last section of steps, it's like as soon as you go on that last kind of like awning type before the last set of steps, or that last platform before the last set,
it
it's
hits you.
like it hits you right there. It's like, oh, I'm gonna lock your hamstrings up, your calves up.
Hmm.
Good luck getting up these last 15 steps. And
Yep.
man, it was wild. I thought it was cool. There's obviously right there in Georgetown, so you're right near the DC airport. There were planes going right by the house, so that was really cool to see.
Hmm.
Right near us, I thought that I got some really cool shots of that. Um, but I think the best shot of the day was your shot, the one that you took.
Thanks to you. Yeah.
Everybody's going crazy over that, man. I mean, that was, yeah. I'll take credit for the picture, but you had the idea to do that, and not to mention this was after it rained, so the steps are
They
soaking
were
wet.
filthy. They
And
were soaked.
I was like, I don't mind you getting in my car wet, like that shit dries, but I'm just like, are you sure you want to do that though? I'm
I
like,
had to.
Kevin? Are you sure? And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I got to. And I remember he got on the steps and he was like, oh, this is gonna be bad. They're soaked
I
because
was trying to like slide the water off of them. There was so much, and I wish we would have got a
yeah.
video. I was like, Mike, look at the steps. It was like a
It
waterfall.
was
There was
because
so much rain coming down.
yeah, and the steps are so steep that the platform when you're walking towards the steps it's at an angle, and then obviously the steepness of the steps. It literally was, to Kevin's point, it was a waterfall. So he had to take his foot and he's scraping puddles and puddles off of these steps.
Yeah, no exaggeration. There was a ton of water, and I was just like, just let me know if I look cool, man. And you're you lay down on these steps, and they're pretty sharp. Like they're not comfortable to lay on at all. And I just remember the feeling of laying down on them. I'm like, oh man, this is rough. And looking upside down, and I was like, I am seeing what Father Karras saw. I am right where he died. I'm right at the end of the scariest movie ever made, upside down.
Yeah,
It felt spooky.
and I didn't get to talk to you about that. like that image that you had looking up at the steps, but I saw that you put it in your caption for your photo, and I was just like, man, I was thinking to myself after I read that, I was like, I can't imagine what that was laying at the bottom of the steps looking up.
It was spooky. I just remember seeing like the sky and the tree line and just feeling like the pressure of each step on me, and it's fucking weird, man. It was weird, but I'm glad I did it. Great shot. Probably the best shot I'll ever have from a film location. So shout out to you for taking a cool photo. But I had to, man. I had to, I had to lay down on him, dude.
Nah, man, it was a great shot, great idea. But yeah, man, the Exorcist Steps was something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I know Kevin wanted to do for a long time. So it was great to finally be able to visit that. It's like 2 hours from my house. I just never made my way over there, and I'm glad we were able to. Now, think about this. It is like 3:30 now, because we actually spent a lot of time at the Exorcist Steps because of the rain and stuff like that. But we took a lot of photos there. So it was like 3:30 when we kind of left there, 3:34. And up to this point, we had gone to the convention. We met some of our favorite actors from for some of our favorite movies, from The Lost Boys, from Scream. I mean, we met fucking David Arquette. Now we're at the Exorcist Steps, like a filming location from one of the most scariest film of all time. Like, we did this by 3:30 p.m. on a Saturday, a busy Saturday, and then we were not done.
Right.
I think one of the coolest things that we kind of figured out was how far away that movie behind you was filmed, the Blair Witch Project. And it was only 30 minutes away. It was only 30 minutes away. And I was like, man, thank God for the time change, because it stays light a lot longer. And it was only 3:30. So by the time we got there, we stopped and got some drinks and kind of fueled back up, because we were outside with really nothing to drink at the steps, and it was kind of muggy. And so we did that, and we we went to the Blair Witch Project locations, several of them, and we're going to dive into them. But so it was always known that this movie was mainly filmed at what park again?
It's Seneca Creek State Park, which is, like you said, 30 minutes west of DC. And it's crazy because, the Blair Witch Project and then Linda Blair, two of the scariest movies ever made, are just filmed so close together. So we get back in the car from the Exorcist Steps, and Mike goes, he looks over at me. He's like, Blair Witch Project locations? And I'm like, let's do it, man. And by this point, we're running on fumes, but like,
especially
we had to.
You're just we're just 30 minutes, even if it was an hour, like, you're just way too close to such an iconic spot, especially for Kevin. You know what I mean? So there was just no way, like, I wasn't going to make any excuses. We got this far, even if it was an hour away, I would have been up to go, and I'm sure Kevin would too. But it was only 30 minutes away, so we decided to jump in the car and do that. Like I said, we fueled up, and then we went to the state park. And obviously, for any state park, you got to pay to get into. So we pulled into the park, and we come up to where you pay, and the guard stepped out. And I'm gonna let Kevin tell the story because he had the interaction.
Yeah. So Mike's like, I'm gonna let you do the talking. And so it's just this young girl, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And she's like, I think she was like, it'll be $5 per person, maybe. I was like, okay, cool. And so I went to pay. Maybe I had my memory wrong, but I paid, and she gave us a map. And I was like, before we pulled off, I'm so glad I asked this. I was like, oh, hey, by the way, we're not from here, but we're looking for the Blair Witch Project locations. Do you know where that's at in this park? Are we at the right spot? And she was just kind of like, she didn't really know what to say. And I just remember her going, I was like, is there a red barn around this area? I was trying to show her some pictures, and she wasn't really remembering it or knowing what I was talking about. And then she's like, no, but I think there is a house where somebody died that's in there. And I was like, I didn't know what to say to that. I was like,
Me neither. She's like, he's like, I can show you where that is. I'm like,
I just started laughing. I was like, I don't think this is the park. So we'll circle back. And so we did like the U-turn and we left. And so actually, I don't know if I paid to go into the park, but I remember paying for the map.
For the map, you did. We didn't actually, because I think you asked the question before
We
payment.
paid.
Yeah,
that's right. That was weird. That was a weird interaction.
That was
with her.
very weird. I could take you somewhere where somebody got killed.
There's an old house where someone was dead. You can check that out.
Yeah. Hard pass.
And so we left there, and I was on my phone trying to figure out what road it was on because I thought it was in Seneca Creek State Park, but it is and it's not. And so the location for the barn that they pass, the location for the spot where they filmed the two fishermen, where they interviewed them, the spot where they parked the car and start their journey into the woods is like in the same little area. It's on Black Rock Road, about maybe 10 minutes from the park. It wasn't very far. And the way we came in on it, it was on the opposite end. And so I think it was.
It took us away where when you turned down the road, Kevin was like, oh yeah, this is it. And then we got a little bit further down the road, and it looked like we were coming into a neighborhood. Not like a neighborhood, but a bunch of houses. And it was like...
it was nice.
It was. But I was like, I don't know if this is it. Because I remember you were like...
That's right. Yes, right. Because the entrance of the road, it was just like a little side road. And you're going down. It's pretty narrow. There's a bunch of woods. I'm like, ooh, this is feeling Blair Witchy. And Mike's like, yeah, it is. And so we keep going. And then there's a bunch of nice houses. Like it's a neighborhood. And then you keep going, and then we go around a curve. I'm like, man, that curve looks familiar. And then we keep going up, and then there's the barn on our left. I'm like, fuck, this is it. We're here. And so we go up a little ways, do a little 3-point road turn. Mike hits a little hill.
I run into the back of this little grass hill, and I'm like, oh, that's fucked up.
But boom.
It made a loud ass noise too, and I'm like, oh shit, that is not good. I was like, I knew this day there had to be some type of wrench thrown into this day. It could not be this perfect.
But it was good. Didn't mess the car up.
It didn't at all. I fucked with you though. I was like, oh man.
Like, man, look at this. Like, I'm just fucking with you. It's good. So we get to the spot. We go past the barn, which is so cool. Like that's just such a cool scene in the movie. And it's crazy how close the barn is and where they park the car. Like it's 100 feet from each other. And so we park the car in the exact same spot. They park the car and we get out and it's perfect because that road, there's like no traffic on it really. And we could just take it in. And it didn't even feel like we were there. I kept saying that. I was like, man, we have done so much today. We've seen so much. It doesn't even feel like we are in Burkittsville. We are in the Blair Witch Project.
And that's like a huge movie for Kevin. I know that's like one of your favorite, if not favorite, horror films of all time. And, you know, I could just see it like when we got out the car and we kind of backed up and looked at where we parked compared to exact same spot. I got it on camera. You're like, that is freaking nuts,
That's
dude.
crazy. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and those are exact words, man, because I've only seen that movie once, which wasn't too long ago, but only a few weeks ago. So like I was like, man, I loved being here too, but like I remember where they parked and backing up and seeing my car there. I'm like, oh, it gave me goosebumps. And I was like, oh man, because it was literally in the exact same spot.
So cool. And then we took a couple of really cool pictures that I'll just cherish forever. But like you said, I love this movie so much. I think it's my favorite horror movie of all time. And just sometimes you go to these locations and it really hits you. And then other times you go there, you try to soak it in the best you can. You get home, you're looking at pictures. You're like, I cannot even believe like I was there. And it was like that for me. Yeah. And so, yeah, like we walked in the woods. We stood on, if you watch the movie, they parked next to like this gigantic tree. Now that tree has like been tore down, but the base of it's still there. And I just went and stood on top of it. I was like, Blair Witch tree, and just soaking it up. And we went to the barn.
Oh yeah, the barn.
And I wanted to go get like a piece of it or just go look inside. And like all the weeds and the grass has really grown up around it. And so of course I'm like, poison oak, snakes, but I'm gonna go anyways. And so I start going, but
He was like, I
there
got to, dude. I got to.
there are like bumblebees or carpenter bees like the size of this can that are just roaming around that barn.
It's like hundreds of them,
So,
probably.
and they're so loud. And I was like, I'm just gonna go. I'll be chill. It'll be fine. I get I get kind of close, and you got a really funny video. I'm like,
I do have it. Yeah.
I just stop. I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
And I turn around, I get out. I couldn't do it, man. They were right in my face.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that was cold.
maybe when the weather's cooler, when they're not out, I'll go back. But that was cool. And then we hit the spot where the fishermen were, which was cool, and went on those rocks and stood there and got some cool pictures. And at that point, we were trying to find Coffin Rock, and
Oh man,
that was an adventure, man. That was crazy trying to find that, because I remember watching filming locations for the Blair Witch Project like a couple weeks before this, not knowing we were going to do this. And so I was trying to remember by memory what trail these people went on, because I knew it was close by, and the only trail I saw was across the street, like Seneca Creek Trail or something. So we went down that first, and we walked a good ways, and we were looking around. There's only like one fisherman out there. I was like, should I holler at him, man? You think he knows where Coffin Rock is? And so didn't do that, couldn't find it. And so we walked back to the car, and we're kind of sitting on this little ledge in the parking lot, and we're like trying to find it. And we watched like 5 YouTube videos, and no one's saying really where it is. We're like, where the fuck is this rock, man? And so we finally come across one video, and we found it. And so for those of you listening, if you ever want to go to Coffin Rock, it's directly across the parking lot behind the guardrail. There's a little trail behind the guardrail that you can't see. And so went down that trail, and the trail kind of like veers off. It kind of just disappears.
It disappeared, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
Oh,
it just disappears, or it makes you think you need to go like up the hill. And we're like, nah, that's not right. And so we just start walking into like no man's land where there's no trail, no nothing. And we just walk our way down through the leaves and bushes and like blown over trees, and we're jumping over them, and we get down there, and boom, there it is. And that was a location that was cool. That was a location that I didn't want to leave. I don't know how you felt about it.
I didn't want to leave at all. I thought it was a very eerie feeling there too, based off just watching the movie a couple weeks ago. I'm sure you had that feeling as well, but also a sense of a super calm feeling, because you hear the creek going on in the background. You're on this big rock, so it was kind of a chill environment as well. And honestly, I don't think me and you really talked much while we were there. Like, we just really kind of embraced it, and we're in the moment, and it was just super cool to be there. And then you go back to that eerie feeling because you know the story behind that, and you're standing on the rock where everybody was tied together, supposedly. Yeah. So, yeah, it was just a very eerie feeling, a very cool feeling. And I'll be honest with you, man. If you asked me a month ago, I would have no interest really, and I don't want to say no interest, because I've gone to filming locations that I've had no interest in, and it's worked out great. Like, I just love filming locations. I love being able to match up stuff, even for movies or shows that I don't really enjoy. It's just such a cool experience to be able to be a part or experience cinematic history in whatever form that may be, whether you like it or not. But for me, if you would have asked me a month ago, I probably wouldn't have loved it as much as I was able to. So I'm glad that I was able to watch this movie before I went, and actually loving this movie, because it meant so much more to me.
Yeah, I think that really made my experience better, and that really made my day. I didn't even talk to you about this, but like, your excitement for it, I felt was like above mine. Seeing you just get out and like record yourself talking about where we were. I've got videos of you doing like fist pumps, and like you're just like pumped up to be at Coffin Rock, and just seeing how much it meant for us to be there was really cool, and I'll never forget that. And so seeing you happy made me happy. And like you said, when we got to Coffin Rock, it was very serene and peaceful and quiet, but eerie because of the story of them tied together, their intestines removed, and then Heather being in that little cave reading the
Yeah.
story. And it was, it just had a certain energy too. And I just remember going down, like putting my hand in the water and just taking pictures and like recreating shots and wishing our friend Marie was there.
We were.
And we were like talking out loud. We're like, wish Marie was here. So I told Marie, I was like, your name was spoken out to the Blair Witch locations. And so
Yeah.
wish she could have been there with us, because that was a special one, man. That was cool.
Yeah, it's again, it's something that I won't ever forget. It was just such a cool experience being there, and I didn't even mention this, but we played the Exorcist theme while we were at the Exorcist location, and then which was very creepy, very cool though. And then when we were at Coffin Rock, I played
That was cool.
Heather's speech, and that was just a moment in itself, because if you close your eyes or if you just put down the phone and not watch the YouTube video that I'm playing it off of, and you're just like looking at it, like it's such a cool experience.
Yeah, that's why I love filming locations, because it's almost like you're stepping through the screen and you're in this little place in time where these events happen. You picture Heather there reading the book. You picture Mike with all the audio and like the boom mic and the headphones, and you picture Josh recording, and you just picture the rocks there and where all this stuff happened. And so it's a crazy feeling to experience. And that was one that I'll never forget. And like we've talked about this, but this was my favorite day as a horror fan to date. And it probably will ever be. Like, we did so much. I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. It's going to be very, very hard to top. I mean, what we were able to do, and again, I personally made it back to my house before 11 p.m. that night. So we did all of that in one day, and we weren't rushed. We weren't rushed. We didn't feel like we had to run through the Exorcist steps. We were like, if we were able to make it, we were able to make it. We didn't. Because me and Kevin are definitely big on taking in the moments, being at the locations. It's something I love to do. So we spent time really at every single location, and the con. So hell of a weekend that I don't think, man, will ever be topped. Like that was a horror day for sure.
For sure. I remember we didn't want to leave Coffin Rock, and we were there for, I don't know, we must have been there for at least an hour. And we got there when it was kind of the evening when the sun was starting to set. I'm like, I don't know how much time we'll have, but it stayed up for us, and we soaked it in and took home a couple rocks, which I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but I feel like we had to. And we made our trek back through the woods, which was cool. As the sun was going down, it was really spooky, but also like really pretty. And made the 2.5 hour trek back to your house, and then said our goodbyes, and made my trek back to North Carolina, man. And also just shout out to you for being such a good host, dude.
Of course, man.
Got there, Mike had pizza ready to go, and it was just cool. So shout out to you, and thank you for the hospitality.
It was, man. It was. They say never meet people on the internet, but man, it was definitely worth it. You're a very cool dude, man. It was a hell of a day.
Man. It was fun. Very fun.
Something I'll never forget. We'll never forget. And we're not done, man. We're gonna do some more stuff. I know we definitely want to go back up there and camp out at Coffin Rock. I think that would be really, really cool. We've already we were pointing out places of where the tent would go here or there. So it'll be something that I think would be super cool to do.
Yeah, definitely got to camp out there. Would love to go back in the fall when it's really cold.
I think so too.
And crispy. Yeah. But that's a must, and it's good to know we know exactly where it is now. And
it's not a far drive. I think from my house it's 2 hours, so
it's worth it. It's really cool. Everything still looks exactly the same. It's cool.
It does. All right, man. Any last thoughts or words on that day, or anything that you kind of want to?
I don't think so, man. I think we pretty much covered it all. It just felt, like I said, it was the best, as my best day as a horror fan, and was just grateful that, you provided me a place to stay, and you drove to all these places, and you were up for it. And crazy that we did all that, because going on no sleep and just like making sure you say all the right things to these people. You don't get your poster or your autographs all messed up. You meet everybody, you have a good time, you get your money's worth, and then you really soak in these locations. You get all your pictures, and you also try to have a moment to yourself where you just soak it in before you say your goodbye. Well, like we did everything, and so it was. If you can't tell, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was. It's rare things go perfectly. And pretty much they did that day outside of a little rain that kind of worked out in our favor as far as pictures. I mean, it really was a perfect day, and we got to do a lot. Going to be hard to top, but I don't know. Who knows what's next? So that's going to wrap up episode 44 of the podcast. It was nice having a podcast, not to do any type of ranking or total crazy deep review. Nice to just get on here and talk. But all right, Kev, for people who might not know, where can they follow you at?
You can follow me at Watch Horror Films on Instagram. You can also follow me on YouTube, Kevin Ketchie. And then I think Burke and I are going to do something here soon. Not sure what. We might actually be talking about the state of horror and kind of like, do we want these franchises, these iconic franchises, to stop pumping out movies? How we feel about that. So if you're interested in anything like that or just horror conversations, our podcast is Night of the Comments on Instagram and Spotify and YouTube. So look out for that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Really looking forward to that. Appreciate everybody tuning in to this episode. It was a great one, episode 44 of the Take One podcast. And I don't know, hopefully I'll see you next week. But again, thank you and goodbye.